Episode 12. So, what's new this week?
Well, Disney has announced official plans to end the Indiana Jones franchise.
Oh, so they're actually finished
I guess
with
so.
after the next film. They're done after Indy 5.
Well, it's time. I don't think you can take Harrison Ford out of the movie and expect it to do well. It's kind of
Huh.
tied to him, and it feels like a more just from the movie star era kind of movie. And I don't see how you can replace someone as
Yeah.
strong as Harrison Ford.
I actually respect it. The decision for them to end the franchise. How often does that happen? Like a franchise as a whole is ended.
Rarely nowadays. I mean, Back to the Future has never made another movie,
Yeah,
and
which is great, and it's kind of become this.
it's pure, it's
Yeah.
preserved, but at the same time, it doesn't have the same pop culture relevance. I wonder how many kids. There's probably a good amount. They're famous movies, but I don't know how many kids now are into Back to the Future. Like,
Yeah, it's not for that crowd, but we didn't really expect this. Like we thought that there will be a bit of a passing of the torch in the next Indiana Jones, but I guess this might be it.
but we were kind of unsure how they would do it though. Even
Yeah.
when we were talking about it, it didn't
Yeah.
seem like there was a plausible scenario to make that work.
But now does this mean that like the next movie will be a comprehensive end?
That should be.
Or is this decision they made in after the fact that the movie after the fact the movie was finished? I also heard the movie went through a lot of reshoots and stuff, which usually is not a good sign,
Hmm.
but I don't
I'm
know.
really worried that it's going to be bad. I'll
And
be
they're gonna
honest.
end on a bad note.
That it's gonna, yeah, that's just gonna feel very like it's pandering in certain ways. And
It probably will pander to certain audiences and want to get a lot of stuff crammed into this one last movie.
and then I'm thinking like, okay, well, what if they went a Logan direction with it,
Exactly.
which they're not
Is
gonna
James
do.
Mangold is the one who's doing this,
Yeah,
right?
that's right. But like, will they do that? I don't think they will. I don't think it's gonna be like that.
If like they stuck with the original idea, the original script, yeah, but now that I hear they're doing reshoots, the entire tone of the movie could end up changing. So I don't know. We talked about this before, but now we just know that this will be the end of Indiana Jones. Who knows? Maybe this is the end of the Harrison Ford universe, and they're gonna continue in a different Indiana Jones franchise, a complete reboot.
But it's just like, what do you call it? I don't understand what you
Yeah, I don't
call.
know.
It's hard to call it anything else. And if they got somebody to replace him, I just don't think anybody could view him as a Indiana
Yeah.
Jones.
Indiana Jones is cut from the team now. Cut from the Disney team, the franchise team. They're cut, man. That
Well,
sucks because we're fans, but
no,
we're-
it's good.
it sucks.
It
You
had
know
its
what? Yeah,
time.
you're right. It
It had
doesn't
its
suck at all. It's actually great.
It's had its time. I would rather just have it end here instead of Disney makes a ton of Indiana Jones movies and will probably
Yeah.
be disappointed. And
Yeah.
it's so hard to even meet anyone's expectations because we're so removed from that time, the original movie. So it's really a pointless exercise. I'm happy. I would have been happy to just leave it where it was,
Of
even
course.
with Kingdom of the
But-
Crystal Skull. But
Yeah.
hopefully they pull through, and this is a nice, I don't know, like epilogue kind of movie.
Yeah, it could. Who knows? We could be wrong, but I kind of do want to just leave it there because it could go either way. It could be a great wrap up and ended, or it might be really messy and they might try to get more out of it. But we'll just see when we cross that bridge, I guess.
And it's supposed to be the longest, is it not? In the franchise or something like that? That's what I heard.
Okay, that could be concerning because, I mean, I just saw John Wick and that was almost 3 hours long. So some things don't need to be that long and they drag. But
And it's really going to define if Indiana Jones is more about its characters than the story itself. Because
Yeah.
I feel like part of Crystal Skull's the issues people had with it, was that like really the only hangover from the original that I can think of, right? You have Miriam
yeah,
and Indy, but a lot of the surrounding characters obviously are too old and are like, but I
Yeah.
don't know then though, because Indiana Jones's father was a new character at one time, and that was a pretty radical
Yeah,
move.
you can really do whatever you like when it comes to introducing new characters. You can do it pretty late in the journey. Like, they brought Miriam back, and we didn't really expect that. She was only in one movie. So bringing her back for Crystal Skull was whatever. They could do that with anybody, maybe.
Will there be cameos? Well, we got Sala.
Yeah,
I
we'll
don't-
see.
I haven't heard of anybody else. Is anybody else still alive? I guess we can get Miriam.
We'll see what happens.
Who knows? Well,
Also looking online this week, I saw just a funny thing I kind of wanted to talk about is that Netflix is officially ending their DVD by mail service.
they were still doing that?
I did not know they were still doing that, but after 25 years, they're now retiring that service. And it's obviously time,
Yeah, but
right?
it is time. Big time, of course. But I really think DVDs are probably going to have a resurgence, knowing the way things
Yeah,
go.
like still having a physical collection is kind of appealing to me. And I did grow up with DVDs and VHS and whatnot. Like the streaming wasn't a thing until about a decade ago. So maybe I will. Like there definitely will still be people who want to collect DVDs but when it comes to renting DVDs, that's not.
No, that's done.
I see DVDs in bins for 50 cents now, so there's really no point to paying to rent it when you can buy it for just as cheap, if you even want to buy it, because a lot of people don't even have DVD players anymore.
Yeah. Well, renting is not going to come back. But I would say streaming is getting more restrictive. And
But
I feel
this
like that's going to
sparked
drive
streaming.
DVD sales.
And that's important to say.
Yeah.
This mail service sparked it, and now it's turned into this huge thing where there's streaming wars going on. And
But if you haven't realized, and I'm not the first person to figure this out, I'm sorry, but the party with streaming is over. It's going to get worse. It's going to get more restrictive. Look, at the end of the day, long story short, all these, as you said, the streaming war are now all hold these different properties. So the
Yeah.
libraries are all getting worse. A ton of
Yeah.
them aren't becoming profitable now, so it's at a stalemate. And really, what it's looking like the solution is going to be is ads and a lot less content and more reliance on original content. What does that sound a lot like? Cable. And there'll probably be a lot more live events. You're right. Like and they're
Yeah.
releasing shows by week now. They don't like doing
Right.
it, everything. So the fun days of streaming are over. It's like back to
hold
cable.
the phone though, because like it almost already is cable to a certain extent, because me personally with Prime, Prime has channels, right? Like
Exactly.
subscribe to Shudder to watch this collection, or subscribe to this. Like Amazon Prime has channels that is an additional monthly fee on top of what you pay yearly for Prime, so that's already really cable-y.
Yeah.
Obviously Netflix and Disney don't do stuff like that, but I'm looking on Prime, I'm like, oh great, they have the movie I want to watch, and then it says, oh, you gotta do
Exactly.
it. Come on, that
People are-
sucks.
People are getting very tired of that. And like I said, the libraries are getting worse.
Yeah.
So, and I don't mean to sound negative, even though that totally was, but it could have positive effects. Like I was alluding to, I think it will raise physical sales a lot, because at least for the
People are
movies
done.
that people hold
Yeah.
dear,
Yeah.
they're gonna want a physical
Yeah.
copy of that.
Like having the complete Marvel collection on DVD, or Star Wars, and having all the Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, collecting all those onto DVD in case like a doomsday situation happens, you can still watch movies.
Yeah.
Think about that too. Like if something were to happen, or
That's
you
another-
won't be able to watch stuff online anymore.
If anything ever gets censored
Yeah.
or changed, and that's the only copy available.
Do you find like that this movie is on Netflix, and then you go to watch it and now it's not? And
Yeah.
that happened. I'm not talking about, oh, they leave and come back. No, like sometimes Spider-Man will be on Disney, and then the next week it's not. And I don't understand why. It just happens randomly and the most inconvenient times. But movies and properties are constantly bouncing back and forth between what streaming services they're available on,
That's like
and
cable.
it's super inconvenient. It's a big downside to streaming services.
They're literally becoming like networks. I mean, HBO has one, NBC has
Yeah.
one. All the big networks in America are getting one or have one. So it's looking more and more like that. And I also think what's proven to be interesting about streaming is that, the belief was, okay, you are totally in control. You got to seek out what you want and you get to choose. But
Yeah.
I think we're finding that people want to be recommended stuff because we all do it. We have all this choice, all this content, and we just watch the same thing over and over and over again. And I feel like if we went back to a more regimented programming block like cable,
Yeah.
maybe people would check out more stuff. Cable still had that
There's
problem.
no channel surfing anymore.
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
watching this and then jumping back and forth. Like that type of stuff was kind of an inconvenience. Now you know what you want to watch and you can watch it when you want to watch it and you can't miss something because it's waiting for you. Like not like you have to make it home to 7 to watch your show. You can watch it whenever you want, whenever you're ready. That's super a big plus size to streaming services, but there are a lot of inconveniences that have been popping up over the past few while, but
And advertisers need places to advertise product, right? I mean, really, the only place you're getting ads anymore is on YouTube
Yeah.
and certain sites, and like
social media ads
and
are
social
insane.
media. Those are the only places you're really getting them. If you have ad block, you're not even getting them on YouTube,
Yeah.
right? So you think now
That's crazy that
yeah.
still works.
Now
by
that
the
there's
way.
now it's a subscription model. It is crazy that still works. But now that it's a subscription model, right? And that's a huge loss of revenue that these streaming companies could be making on advertising, and that's also less advertising time for these companies trying to sell products.
Yeah.
So I feel like they get together and be like, it's going to be better for us if it's not only subscription based but ad based. And everybody makes more money.
I don't know.
Because think of when we lost cable advertising, like how much money that was lost. Now,
Yeah.
streaming, there's no ads. Like that's so much money left on the table, really, if you think about it.
What's your favorite streaming service?
Oh, it's really hard. Like
You don't have to give a straight answer. If you kind of want to talk about it a bit more, like why this one you
Yeah.
like this or whatnot, feel free.
I'll explain. So none of them really, I would say, are perfect anymore. Like I said, I think we're kind of at the end of streaming being really good.
Yeah.
But or at least this kind of first era. But Crave, as far as like content,
Right.
that or like Amazon.
But I do hate Crave at the
Oh,
same
the operating
time.
system is terrible.
Yeah.
It makes me so angry.
No matter what platform you watch Crave on, whether it's on your smart TV or your laptop, whatever, it fucking sucks every time.
Yeah, and
Like
sometimes
trying
you'll-
to search, it doesn't do recommended or anything. You have to type in exactly what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible.
it's not organized well, and you run into sometimes. At least I've had this problem where the movie just keeps buffering every
Yeah.
5 seconds.
Crave has a lot of issues, but they have a lot of good content
Yeah,
on there. They got like the whole Harry Potter collection. When it comes to like 80s, 90s, like slasher films, Crave has almost all of them. Like so, and that you kind of get that where you start to know what you're looking for and where you can find it. So I know to go to Crave for those
And they-
sorts of things.
they get good franchises too. Like,
Yeah.
they'll get some collections.
All the
every
Mission
now and then.
Impossible. I
Yeah.
think they got Lord of the Rings.
Rocky.
Yeah. So they're pretty good at that.
They had James Bond. I don't know if it's still on there anymore.
And there's a lot of controversial stuff right now going on with Netflix, but I am still quite pleased with their selection. I know it's been rocky. There were periods in time where I thought like Netflix selection wasn't that great, but personally I've been watching more Netflix recently, and Disney Plus is always solid for me.
Disney Plus is solid, but Disney Plus really sheds a light on how many rough years Disney had there.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so you have the 90s Renaissance stuff and then forward to like now. And then you have the stuff from the 30s, 40s, 50s. In between that,
Yeah.
garbage. Like,
Yeah.
not garbage.
A
There's
lot
good
of
movies in there, but stuff nobody knows.
Nothing holds up.
Like,
from-
yeah. Like The Rescuers and like Sword
Hey,
in the
don't
Stone.
be throwing shade.
I didn't say those movies were bad. I'm just saying they're not classics. And they're really not talked about
Sword in the
anymore.
Stone.
I don't know, really. You ask the average person, wouldn't they be redoing
Nah,
it by now?
I defend that.
No, it's a good movie, but it's not popular.
No, it's not popular, but it is pretty iconic, in my opinion. Like that image, the imagery and the story of the sword and the stone and the tale of the sword and the stone. Disney World, they have a thing you can try to lift it and stuff. I still see it pretty,
I don't know, because they would have rebooted it.
but I get what you mean. There's definitely this generation of kids definitely have no idea what that is.
But I'm just saying, if it was if it was that big, it would have been rebooted by now.
But yeah, Disney had many years where they were not hitting the air right on the head. But
Robin Hood, that one too. Like
Yeah.
nobody talks about it anymore.
all good stuff,
Those
but like
obscure ones.
obviously leagues below some of their biggest.
Well, and they're known for like those ones have like really cheap animation and
Yeah.
are really it was just kind of known as like the dark period, but it shows you like Disney kind of struggled along there for a lot of decades.
Yeah.
You know, they were always iconic, but they had periods where they really had to fight and they really weren't on top. You know, it's really in the past like 30 years they've really come to like
Yeah.
dominate the world and they'll own our town
But like
someday.
when it comes to streaming services too, like it's also important like that everything is available all the time. And with Disney Plus that works because I believe Disney Plus has Simpsons. I think they also have Family Guy.
Yeah, they got both.
So, and they have every episode from season 1 to now, and they're still making new episodes. Netflix, like when Netflix had SpongeBob, they only had like 2 seasons, and it was 2 terrible seasons. And it's like, why couldn't you get the whole collection? You should have it, all of it, or none of it. In my opinion, Disney Plus gets a point there.
But I feel like Disney Plus for some reason just feels like it should have more recognizable titles. Like I remember when I first found out.
I don't know. Every time I go looking on there, I'm like, yeah, damn, everything is on here. Right?
I don't know. It's for some reason it still feels like it could be more. Call me insane, but I just remember when I first heard about it, I'm like, they own everything. There's going to be
Yeah.
anything you could ever want, and I guess I
Yeah.
was wrong, but it just doesn't feel like that.
It's always
that
being
way.
added too, because like they acquired 20th Century Fox, and that
Yeah.
means all the X-Men showed up, and all the Alien and Predator movies showed
That's where
up.
Family Guy
because
came
that's-
from.
Exactly. So a lot of that stuff is forgotten about. If you don't know that, all that stuff is on Disney Plus. It is.
Futurama too. That's nice
Yeah.
to have.
Oh, that's on there. I've been actually meaning to watch that.
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. That's a massive plus.
It's a big show for a lot of people.
Oh yeah, and it's just one of the most unique.
Netflix
sitcoms.
only alive because of The Office.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but yeah, it's got like to me, Disney Plus is cool just for having It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia because that's
You
the
like that?
It's the first sitcom that's got me going in a while, and it's kind of like Seinfeld in hell, if that makes any sense. Like these people are just in Seinfeld, they're kind of shitty people, but
Right?
but in Always Sunny in Philadelphia, they're like terrible,
Wow.
the worst people. And
I'll check it out.
That's
I'll
all I'm
try.
gonna
You're
say.
praising it, so.
Danny DeVito pushes the limits of his performance. He does anything and everything. You think he's taking it too far? No, he does some other gross out
Okay.
shit. Like
You got me sold on that.
amazing. But yeah, Disney Plus does have a lot of strong content. It's just for some reason I felt like it would be more.
Yeah, it does. I get what you're saying, but I also at the same time I do recognize how much they have.
But I totally overestimated it because I remember saying back when the rumblings first came out, they were making a streaming service. I'm
Yeah.
like, you won't have to get another streaming service. Like, it's
You
gonna be-
okay? Yeah, but also you were right in the aspect of like when Disney Plus came out, it immediately went to the top of the competition.
Yeah.
There was no rising through the ranks. Day one, Disney Plus dropped. It was up there in the numbers with Prime and Netflix. Like most people own like Netflix, Disney Plus, Prime, at least those three. Like
Exactly. Those are probably the three big
I'd
ones
say
you want.
below 50% people do Crave. Not a lot of people get HBO.
Yeah, you think
Unless
Crave,
you're kind of a TV movie buff, right?
like you think it would be Crave is I think Crave's only in Canada.
Yeah,
So
in
I-
the States it's just called something else.
Isn't it just HBO Max?
Yes.
That would be the equivalent.
Yes.
So I'm surprised Crave isn't more popular in Canada just for the
Yeah.
HBO stuff. But also we should say about Disney Plus, they have our favorite sitcom, How I Met Your Mother, is on there as well now too.
Yeah, I've watched it after like I've watched that show many times, but when Disney Plus came out, I watched it through once again. A great show. Yeah, I don't know. Once you have like 3 or 4 of these streaming services, it's great. But then, this is such a it sounds so stupid saying this, but like the inconvenience of not knowing what movie is on what streaming service, and you gotta look up like what
Yeah.
streaming or where. If you want to watch a movie, you gotta look up what service it's on. That's a great idea, and someone should make an app for that. If it doesn't already exist, you can just look up a movie and it'll tell you what streaming service it's on.
Well, here's the other thing: prices are gonna go up for streaming.
And they are.
services
Netflix
big time.
has a big controversial thing going on right now. I don't know all the details, but they constantly got price hikes, and they're changing their rules now when it comes to passwords and logins and Wi-Fi. And if you're far away from the original login, then it will be able to tell that you're sharing your password, stuff like that. And that's just some like students need to use their parents' Netflix.
Yeah, it's
know?
inconvenient and it'll hurt their popularity probably.
So
but
I don't know if they're moving
won't
forward
sink 'em.
with that, but if they do, a lot of people have already jumped ship on Netflix.
I know. I feel like they'll never probably be on top again, but I don't think it'll sink them. You know what else they're thinking of trying out though too?
Yeah,
So obviously, as time goes by, prices for streaming services will resemble cable packages the more the year goes on.
Okay.
But what they're thinking about doing, because they will one day get a lot more expensive than they are now, is you can get Disney Plus, but only for a small period of time when a series that you want to watch is on.
interesting.
Because there's streaming services that we have that we really don't use unless one of their originals is
Yeah.
coming out with a new season. So there's talk that you can have it for X amount of months or whatever.
You can pay for like the Mandalorian
Yeah.
package, and you only watch.
Exactly.
It's a pass to only watch it for the 2 or 3 months that a new season is airing.
So that's been floated around as something that
Very
will happen.
interesting. That's for a lot of old school people that
Mm.
like really are being stubborn about the streaming service. They don't want to jump in completely.
But the Wild West days of streaming services are done. We were lucky to be around for that.
Like
but
yeah, and when it comes to Disney Plus, like I pay for that myself. I know a lot of people just use like their parents' Netflix or whatever, but when Disney Plus came out, I'm like, I'm gonna get this because I just want it, and I feel like it's definitely worth the money. Believe it's cheaper than most. Still, it went up in price, but it's still cheap, and there's no limit. I think the limit is large on how many. There's no bullshit with Disney Plus. Netflix, you gotta get this package. You can only have one profile or 2 profiles. Netflix has a bunch of packages like that. Not with Disney Plus. So that was a big plus for me.
for now, I feel like everybody's.
I'm
gonna-
really grateful
Oh, it's good right now. I just think everything's going to start tightening up
for sure.
soon. It's time, to get more business savvy, right? Like let's see what happens in
Yeah.
any medium, right? You've seen it happen to YouTube, right? Like everything gets to the point where, all right, money needs to be made, so we got to get serious funds over.
Yeah, I mean YouTube is streaming too.
Exactly.
So there's the whole YouTube music thing, and or paying for YouTube without ads. YouTube will always kind of be like a free website for myself to use. I'm not trying to pay money for YouTube because that's been like a pretty public service, YouTube,
Yeah.
right? And I don't think I spend as much time on YouTube as other people do. That was more of like a teenage thing growing up.
To me, it's recommendations.
YouTube is
are getting
like one of
worse.
is the greatest website on the internet.
It is the
though.
greatest website of all time. I will say recommendations though aren't as good now. I find
Yeah.
it's just way more repetitive, and I feel like I have nothing to watch, which is ridiculous to say. But
Yeah.
ironically, with streaming, like with music, it's actually gone in the opposite. It's made music more like the Wild West. You were just mentioning how
Yeah.
things have changed. Like with movies, it's now becoming more restrictive, but like with music, it's like you can listen to more music than you ever could.
Yeah.
So I mean, everything has its time where it's more out there and fun. But
Interesting.
yeah,
No.
kind of opposites.
Streaming service talk is big. Like the streaming wars is just funny. Like how these just mainly 4 or 5 titan companies that are all trying to have the best streaming service, and it's funny
I
to
feel like
watch like people bicker about which one's better than the other,
who
or
gets passionate about that,
right?
To me they'll be in gridlock forever because there's only so high any of them can go. It seems like to me, just
Yeah.
because the limit on content, and it kind of feels
All
like
the content's gonna be bought up,
Yeah.
and there'll be nothing else to acquire, and all these companies will be making their own original series moving forward.
and it
right?
feels like sliding scales. Like one one day it's gonna be Disney Plus is on top. Then
Oh, yeah.
Netflix comes out with something like Squid Game, and
For
suddenly
sure.
like they shoot up. But that's one place where Disney Plus is like really messed up on the original content front. It's been iffy. And it's really
Iffy.
affected that place profitability.
But I
Disney's
think
having problems with Disney
Di-
Plus.
with Disney's original content, they're trying, and they
Oh.
are pushing out a lot of stuff. Their budget is huge, and Star Wars, original Star Wars shows, new like that is huge to have in a streaming service, and it's just whether or not the writers and creators do a good job making it right, but. When it comes to original content, I'd put Disney Plus up there with Netflix.
I'm saying it hasn't been working out for them as well as the other ones. I would say that's became a
Yeah, they've had a lot of misses.
and they're having problems with Disney Plus right now on the
Yeah.
profitability end, and partly is because they're putting out so many shows on these
Right.
high budgets
So much-
that
yeah.
a lot of them aren't seeing returns, aren't very well received.
Right.
Like they have ones that have stuck it out and have done well, but I'd say there's more that have just kind of gone by the wayside. Even ones that were initially loved.
Cool.
Didn't quite stick the landing.
Yeah, it's interesting. Interesting conversation, that one.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens with Disney Plus, but Disney's not running out of money, so I'm sure they'll be fine.
We talked about earlier, we briefly name dropped Logan. So I kind of wanted to also talk about Hugh Jackman is return. This is old news, by the way, guys. We know, but Hugh Jackman's return as Wolverine only like under the condition it's for Deadpool 3. And it was Ryan Reynolds who got Hugh Jackman to accept to come back, because as we all know, spoilers for Logan, but Wolverine perished, died at the end, and he stayed dead, and he has. But Hugh Jackman's like, I'll come back if it's like with Deadpool, and maybe he finally gets his iconic suit, and his only concern is that they do it right, and it's happening. So before we move into that conversation, how do you feel about, like, he is coming back for Deadpool 3? As a comic fan, it's something a lot of people want, but you're not necessarily a comic fan, so.
I'm open to this. What I want to know from you is what is like the plot necessity to
Right.
bring him back.
Just because they are two of the biggest and most iconic and images and team ups in comic books, so it just goes right. It's like your bread and your butter having Wolverine and Deadpool side by side, because they're from the same X-Men universe, so a lot of the times their paths crossed, and it was just a bit of a shame that we never got to have them together on screen. And then it seemed like it would be impossible, because once upon a time we never ever thought that there'd be an awesome Deadpool movie that's comic accurate, and let alone have Hugh Jackman be able to hang out with them and have a cool movie with them. We didn't get that, especially after Wolverine died in the last movie, but they're like, fuck it, let's bring him back and make this cool movie, because that's what people want. So I'm here for that.
I think it'll be good, and you're saying there was popular comics with them together,
Yeah.
right? So okay, then it's legitimate to me. Of course, they're definitely thinking they're gonna get that applause in the theater. I don't know. My thing with Deadpool, though, I really liked the first two movies. I just don't know how into that humor I still am.
That's okay. Like, it's a little loud for some people, or cheesy, or
I'd say it's just kind of overdone now.
Yeah.
They're very self-aware. Look at the camera, sarcastic. Like
Yeah.
that
dead wall breaking.
Yeah, like not them. The other Marvel movies wall broke the fourth wall, but it's similar kind of humor. It's just very like self-aware, and I don't know. It's kind of getting old to me.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can make me roll my eyes, but
Yeah, I get that, but like, if that's Deadpool being Deadpool, then I don't care, and it goes over my head, and I'm not picky about it, because that is the one character, in my opinion, that should be able to let loose.
Well, I'm saying for me, it's not a fair opinion. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like, me personally, but I understand Deadpool's like that, and
Yeah.
I'm open to this movie, like, and I could definitely be good.
Because you could bring anybody back and do whatever you want now, realistically, because of the whole multiverse thing. So I don't know how they're gonna explain it or how, because he died, right? And it's kind of they're in separate universes, I think. So I don't know how they're gonna explain it, but it's easy now through saying through the multiverse or whatever, which is kind of a cop out. Being it like in the new Spider-Man movie, having the other guys show up just because they could make it happen now. So
But can they make it more complex than that? There's so much stuff now. You're really
Yeah.
gonna make it difficult
Yeah.
for somebody trying to get into all of this.
yeah.
You know, if it has to be some really convoluted, really complex explanation for everything, right? Some stuff's just gonna have to be brushed
True.
off. There's a sea of stuff now.
But yeah, we just saw the original, like why saw this on the news websites is because Hugh Jackman was just posted some stuff on social media about him getting in shape and working on doing the Wolverine like grunts and yells and whatnot. But Deadpool 3 is set to hit theaters November 8th, 2024. And they actually start filming May 1st. I believe I didn't write it down here, but I read it a couple hours ago. So they're about to get ready to start filming.
And they've announced a release date. That seems so tight
Right? Isn't that
to
weird?
do.
2024, though, November.
Oh, never mind. What am I?
Right. I thought the same thing. I'm like, oh, that's pretty soon. How's
I
that?
need to pay attention. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it went over my head too, but yeah, that's exciting. That was the last thing I had on the lineup for today, things to talk about. But I was a huge Wolverine fan and a huge fan of Logan, that movie specifically, and I just rewatched it. You know, yeah, I get emotional every time watching him like die and whatnot at the end, and I thought it was done perfectly. And like, so I always thought, would it feel cheap if they bring him back?
Oh, it probably will, but you just
It was
kind of got to
7
live
years
with it.
ago now, which is crazy to think that
Really?
movie came. Yeah, 7 years ago.
God.
So, no, it's cool because he gets to have a movie with Deadpool. So,
And he loves
I
playing
just
the
think
character.
yeah, and I think the timing is right. Like, yeah, bring him back. People will go nuts for it, and you'll get to make your money. 20th Century Fox or Disney, or is it? I actually am confused. I guess it'll be 20th Century Fox movie.
Well, we'll see it in the trailer.
Yeah, we will.
Like
all these great reveals happen in the trailers now.
That's when we'll see it the first time, and it'll be like,
This is the third time
Wow.
of us talking about this on the show. There's great moments revealed in the trailers.
but they have to do that now. That's the game.
Yeah.
Now nobody
you
goes to the
want-
theaters
yeah.
empty-headed, looks at a poster and says, "That looks cool. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
watch
That's
that."
not how it is anymore.
So and hasn't been for a very long time.
You got to capture people with your trailer before the movie years before the movie comes out. They're revealing the biggest things, but
I don't think it's been like that since we were like 7,
yeah.
8. You know, so just that's the game now. It is what it is.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add about that Deadpool stuff? Or you
No, I
good?
think we about covered it.
Yeah. So, guys, if you want to join in the conversation, whether that's on our social media or on the YouTube channel, how you feel about Indiana Jones ending, Netflix mailing service, or streaming services.
Yes, and have you seen The Sword and the Stone? I'd be curious to know.
Nice.
I'd be very curious to know.
And your thoughts on Deadpool 3 and Hugh Jackman returning. That's all for this week on The Slime.
Bye.
Take it easy, boys. That was weird. I kind of want to take that
It's not
back.
gender inclusive.
Sorry. Bye, everyone.
Bye.